formally welcome everybody to the JCS webinar series, business continuity through technology. Tonight, we're joined by Dexter Graham and Gregory Moore from Esports Initiative. Um, we'd like to, this topic tonight, we're talking about esports, viability of esports. What is esports in the local, regional, and international context? And like to kick things off with, more formal introduction. So if Gregory could, introduce yourself, what you're doing, who you're representing, and then Dexter right after you.
Okay.
All right. Thank you for having us on the show. This is the second time we're doing something with the JCS, and I always appreciate the exposure. Um, Gregory Moore, I am the chairman and the CEO of the Jamaica Esports Initiative. It is the national federation for esports development in Jamaica. So we are responsible for development from a national level. And the aim of that is to explore opportunities, get the opportunities, pass it on to the community, as well as qualify a national team that will represent us in in different events around the world, as well as the Olympics, which it's expected to take place in the Olympics quite soon. So our job is to prepare Jamaica for that, and we start from as low as prep school. We focus a lot in schools and institutions, university, and from amateur to pro level as well. So we just kind of work with everybody within the esports scene, get the opportunities, and try to prepare Jamaica for that international level of play and competition.
Dexter? Awesome. Okay, so I mean, we're talking about esports tonight, and I want to make sure that everybody, you know, is level set. Next time, by the way, is there a way for you to turn up your mic a little bit? Um, Having a little bit of problems hearing you. It's a bit low. No, man, I'm hearing it. It's just I want it to be a little bit louder so everybody else on the stream can hear. All right, then, never mind. Let's try that. So esports, everyone that's joining us right now. Short term for electronic sports. It's a form of competition where professional gamers square off in teams or individually, and it takes place in a multiplayer setting. And normally, you get a cash prize at the end. But usually, well, back in the day, esports started off as bragging rights in certain communities. Correct. I'm a gamer myself, and I've been familiar with esports from back in the day. But even though the tournaments I've seen, starting off with fighter games like Mortal Kombat, with Smash, Marvel vs. Capcom, Tekken, those days. But recently, we've seen a big rise in esports, primarily around games like League of Legends, which has taken it by storm. Starting off in the Asian continent and then branching over into Jamaica. So what you guys think, or how do you feel about the sudden growth in esports internationally, and then how is that translating to Jamaica, Greg?
All right. Well, All right, you from the public's eye, or I guess the general public eye, it would seem as if it's an explosion.
Yeah.
But from persons who have been in the industry for quite some time, myself, well over a decade, probably actually going into 15 years now.
Mhm.
It's always been huge, simply because gaming has been around since, like my father. You know what I mean? And I'm
Yeah.
sure everybody here probably had some game system at home. So the competitive side of gaming has been going on for a while, but it was considered an underground activity.
Mhm.
So even back in the 80s, when they had arcades squaring off, you had hundreds and thousands of people attending competitions like Donkey Kong, trying to beat Donkey Kong, Pac-Man, those kind of things.
The
And
top sports.
right, and it was extremely informal. It was kind of like a for us, by us, gamers, nerds, what have you. So what has happened over the years is persons within the community started to, grow up, persons own businesses, what have you, and they started to put that business mentality behind it overseas, and it allowed for the kind of exposure that we're seeing today. So it's been big, but now it's huge from a corporate perspective, overseas, right?
Yeah.
And that explosion that you see brands rushing to know. I mean, this outside of even the whole COVID thing, COVID kind of what you call it? It has made it bloom in such a way because all the physical sports have now ceased. So the only real sporting activity taking place is electronic. But many brands, hundreds of brands, have flocked to esports simply because this generation of kids,
Yep.
and adolescents, their attention is on the digital side of things. So, brands have to go towards that. And that is where we're seeing the explosion. So you'd see a stadium with 20, 30, 40, 50, 70,000 persons watching two teams play, you know,
Yeah.
and it's huge, and it outsells the NBA, it outsells the NFL, it out like it. There's no physical sport right now that takes place on Earth that can bring a crowd as an esport, a proper esport event. So
Because
as it,
of something like
yeah,
back in 20, I think it was like 15, 16, when they were having the League of Legends World Finals. I think it was in the Birdnest Stadium that year, and it was a huge production, and the stadium was sold out. I think I was at home with my mom, and I showed her the screen, and it was approximately like the stadium was packed. I'm like, mommy,
yeah,
all
yeah,
right here to watch 10 people play video games.
right. Well, exactly. So
Yeah. So next,
it's been big.
it's been big. But next one, as a tournament organizer, what kind of hype you seeing around this now in the Jamaican space?
Well, honestly, it has
I'm not
been.
hearing you at all, Dexter.
Oh,
Your mic is off.
yeah, I forgot that I turned on my mic. There was some dog outside getting loud. But like I said, I've been doing esports from 2013, but I really got into it in 2016. And in the past 4 years, I've seen huge growth in the number of persons who turn out to tournaments. Corporate
Mhm.
companies actually getting involved in what I'm doing or what esports is right now. So let's look at 2018 is my breakout year. So the first event that I did where I saw growth in esports in Jamaica is when I think Dwayne Williams invited me to host a League of Legends tournament during the DBS conference at UE, and that was
Mhm.
the first footstep for me into esports from a corporate level. We gave away a total of about $400,000 in prizes because we bought 10 computers and gave away 5 to the winning team, along with some cash
Yeah.
prizes. Later that year, I did a exhibition at Digicel downtown headquarters, and that again was another step in the right direction in terms of corporate involvement. And then I started doing gaming tournaments called Best in JA series at Area
Mhm.
51 on Sabina Park. And
Yeah.
every tournament that I held, I saw more persons coming out. Fast forward to 2019, I collaborated with the Anime Nerds of Jamaica to host an exhibition called Cage, which stands for Cosplay, Anime, Gaming, and Esports Exhibition. And from that again, we see more corporate companies coming on board. We got Pizza Hut as our title sponsor for the event. everything that we did on the day was covered and broadcast to their IG platform. From there, we also got exposure to the Gleaner, to the Observer, to Buzz Caribbean, and so on. So it's just a lot of increase in terms of player turnout for the local tournaments and more corporate involvement for the past 2 years. I started off 2020 with a nice $100,000 prize pool tournament at Savannah Park again, and Pizza Hut was
Uh,
on board. They came out, they gave away some free pizza, they did coverage, and we also got another article in Buzz Caribbean. And there was another $100,000 tournament scheduled for this weekend, May the 2nd, but because of COVID 19, that is now on pause. So the growth over the years, especially, I think the JEI also was established in 2018, Gregory, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
2018 is when the JEI was
yeah,
established. Yeah.
and their involvement or their work to try to get more corporate companies involved in esports also propelled esports in Jamaica generally for myself as a tournament organizer and the other tournament organizers out there like Jason who does Bring the Heat and Dimitri who does War in the North. So again, it's just a lot of growth over the years.
okay, 'cause like internationally, we're seeing the esports industry grow 26.7% year over year, and end of 2019, it was a 1.1 billion US dollar industry
Yep.
globally. And I'm glad to hear that we're seeing some of that reflected here in Jamaica, where we have corporate sponsorship and corporate buying. But no, it sort of begs the question. No, you're saying that there's corporate sponsorship. You have these $100,000 prize pools. What would it take, primarily for Gregory, since we have the Dr. Birds team, for someone to one join the Dr. Birds team and two, like getting a career in esports? Because recently a coach, a friend of mine who's a coach, she does counseling for younger kids. She approached me with a problem. She said, Jason, this guy wants to drop out of school. He wants to start a YouTube channel. He wants to start a Twitch channel. He wants to play Fortnite. I don't know what Fortnite is. He wants to play something with the Gulag. I'm like, you mean Call of Duty? She
Yeah.
said, yeah, he wants to play Call of Duty. And I don't understand why is he choosing, Twitch and YouTube over CXCs and Cape where you can get a nice 9 to 5 stable job. So what's that like? What does it take to become a streamer or a professional athlete?
All right, so definitely this is where the JEI really we're putting a lot of effort into ensuring that there are systems in place, just like any other sporting activity in schools. You have schoolboy football, you have the Jamaica Lawn Tennis Association, swimming. I'm sure everybody here has been to a swim meet or two, what have you. So
So
sports really starts in schools, right? And unfortunately, what we have to fight with, and this is a story that I think everybody who has been involved in the video game industry has come up against, is the fact that video games are a waste of time. They turn into zombies, brain drain, all that kind of stuff.
yeah,
Now, one thing we have to understand is that maybe even 10 years ago, you probably would have seen something like that or heard it and accepted it. Now it is just not so. When you see in esports on ESPN, when you see in F1 converting to esports, when you see in the NBA switching to esports, when you see in FIFA soccer stars switching to esports, it is something that is viable. It makes sense. Now, what is important is that one, there's an educational campaign, and our aim and what we've been doing, a lot of our work is to educate not only players or aspiring players, but also parents and other stakeholders, the corporate citizens of Jamaica, simply because everything has to be done in moderation. Now, I would never recommend anybody to drop out, to desist from what they're doing from an educational perspective. But what we are doing right now is bringing the schools on board in order to establish esports clubs, esports activities within the school environment. And we've seen that over the past year, one, through the assistance of Dr. Thorpe at UTech. the head of skit, we established a location up at the University of Technology through the skit program, and we're bringing esports to the universities. With Dexter and myself and my vice president were just at a meeting the other day with Dr. Aldine Facey from the UA Faculty of Sports, and they recently, I think 2 weeks ago, established their esports club up there. We have Jamaica College, we have um, Excelsior, we have so many schools. We have like 6 or 7 schools on board right now working to establish esports within the schools. And the reason for that is simply because it's a viable option for persons who may not have the ability to physically compete, in a football, a tennis, table tennis, swimming, what have you. But they have the thought pattern, the brain power, the fingers, quick fingers, that kind of thing, to be able to compete, because esports requires a lot of mental work, and some persons may not have the physical attributes, but they'll definitely be able to shine in that space. So I would say that if anybody is interested in doing it, first things first is to probably reach out to the JEI, reach out to a tournament organizer to find out if there's anything that can be done within the school environment. And if we do not have a relationship with that school, we'll certainly pursue that relationship, because what the main thing that comes to us from the schools is that they're playing games at school anyway, so might as well formalize it. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Yeah, man.
So I'm not going to encourage anybody to drop out of school to pursue it, especially from a high school level. When it comes to college, everybody can make their own decisions, but it makes sense to work with a program at the school. And also, we've had parents contacted us so much times. We did a fortnight tournament last year, and a parent came up to UTech to drop off their son to collect the prize. I think it was $30,000 or something like that. Um, she was waiting there for a while because we're taking pictures, giving out the prizes, doing a presentation, whatever. And she came inside and she's like, "Let me see how much money you get." And then she saw the money and she's like, "Oh, so I can pay a light bill now that you you have to run up and that kind of thing." And we're like, "Mom, this guy is really good, and I will really encourage you to encourage him. Make sure you monitor what he's doing, let him do it in moderation, but don't dismiss it simply
Yep.
because there's people making a living from it. You can literally stay online and play these online competitions and win 100, 200 US dollars a week.
But
And
hold on,
if you
before you go there with the 100, 200, last year was the Fortnite Grand Tournament, wasn't it?
right, the World Cup, Fortnite World Cup,
Fortnite. And a 16-year-old
16-year-old.
boy, I think his name was Kyle. I know his stream name is Booger. Won six,
mhm,
what, 3 million US dollars.
3 million US dollars, 3 million US dollars playing Fortnite. And when you listen to those interviews, you see that the parents initially they didn't know what he was doing, they didn't
Yep.
understand it, and they tried to discourage him from continuing. And he brought home $3 million. I think he bought a new house for his mom. He did crazy things with the money, and now I think he has his entire family playing Fortnite. So
Exactly.
there are opportunities, and I can go into the opportunities from a local perspective. Now we do workshops at up at the UTech office that we have. I mean, obviously the workshops are on pause now because of the pandemic, but we do workshops where we have the schools come in, and the schools, we do have coaches within the JEI that will do coaching sessions with players. So, certain games that we focus on,
Mhm.
you can get coaching in that if you come to the workshops, or if you come as your school as a part of whatever the schedule is. And from those workshops, we're actually identifying and training persons that, when they just started out, barely could have pressed the buttons or what have you. And, within a few weeks, our coaches have them, drop coming from a 15th or a 14th place in a local tournament straight up into the top eight. So it just like any sport, if somebody is interested in it, it's just a matter of the route that needs to be taken. But unfortunately, those things weren't established during the creation or the building up of esports locally. And we created a federation, um, to establish those things from an administrative level. So while
So,
we have tournament organizers like Dexton and others doing the local tournaments to get the activities. We as the federation, we're trying to establish certain curricula and activities within institutions that when these tournaments come up, it will increase the attendance as well as identify talent to try out for the national teams, the
So,
national